Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular evening council meeting of Monday, April the 12th. I'll begin by stating that this meeting is being recorded live and is streaming. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Members of the public may access the meeting or participate in the following ways. Watch the meeting live or recorded on Summerland's YouTube channel at youtube.com, District of Summerland. You can watch that live or recorded. If you wish to speak during the meeting and you haven't registered in advance, and you want to speak during the public comment opportunities, you may connect to the meeting by calling the meeting conference line at 778-907-2071 and entering meeting ID 506-489-9374 and passcode 485186. After I've given everybody who has pre-registered the opportunity to comment, the floor will be open to those on the conference line. Director of Corporate Services, is there an introduction of any late items tonight?
There are no late items, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Could I ask someone in council to bring forward the agenda as presented, please? Councillor Patton and Councillor Holmes, all in favor? Thank you. And then on to adoption of minutes, March 22nd, 2021, the public hearing and the regular evening council meeting. Any changes, errors, or omissions there? Okay, I'll ask someone to bring forward adoption of both of those sets. Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Holmes, thank you, gentlemen. All in favor? Great, thank you. And then on to my mayor's report. I hope everyone had the chance to enjoy and relax with those in their bubble on the Easter long weekend, even in the absence of travel. Because of the holiday, I have less to report on tonight. On April the 1st and 8th, I attended the weekly update calls with Interior Health. As of Friday, actually, I'm going to change that. As of today, April the 12th, BC residents wishing to be immunized who are aged 55 and up, Indigenous people aged 18 and up, and those who are considered clinically extremely vulnerable are now being asked to register. As of Wednesday, April the 14th, that age drops down to 50 plus, Friday down to 45 and up, and Monday, a week today, 40 and up. So it's moving along very quickly now. Please note that when you do register for your appointment, you are not actually booking an appointment, but will receive a confirmation by email or text or phone, whatever your choice is, when it is time for you to book your appointment. March 31st and April the 7th, I attended the final two presentations in the Southern Interior Local Government Speakers Series, that's SILGA. We were unable to enjoy an in-person conference again this year, but the executive decided instead to host 8 speakers for SILGA members. The feedback that we've had so far has been very positive. Each session covered a different topic, ranging from community connectivity to the impact of COVID-19 on local governments, to the value of university and local government partnerships, and included a question and answer session. The Minister of Jobs, Economic Recovery and Innovation, Ravi Kahlon, spoke to our members on March the 31st. Also on March the 7th, the CAO and I took part in the Minister of Municipal Affairs, Josie Osborne's call to mayors and regional district chairs. Dr. Martin Lavoie, Deputy Public Health Officer, made a presentation and then answered questions about the vaccine rollout or vaccination rollout and other concerns related to COVID-19. On April the 8th, on behalf of SILGA, I attended the Council of Forest Industries virtual convention. As those in the construction sector or people doing do-it-yourself renovations know, lumber prices have quadrupled over the past year in North America. As Premier Horgan and several others commented, though, there are still several challenges ahead for the forest industry, including fiber supply for secondary industries, ensuring that Indigenous partners are involved in the decision-making, software lumber tariff talks, and sustainable forestry management. On this last item, the Premier stated that the Minister of Forest, Lands, Natural Resources, and Rural Development, Katrina Conroy, has been mandated to revise BC's forest policies. These policies are expected to be public in the next few weeks. I also wanted to recognize that the Snow Angels winners for this year are Stuart and Maxine Millis. So there were close to 50 certificates that were signed and sent out. People that had helped their neighbors or their or someone in their community in helping them clear their snow. So congratulations to Stuart and Maxine, and thank you so much for supporting your neighborhood. And that is the end of my report for tonight. Thank you. Over to you, CAO Stat.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. So for my report, I want to start that the note that Summerland's 15th annual Earth Week celebration is from April 19th to 25. Our theme this year is Restore Our Earth, and the activities are all COVID friendly and geared to families and individuals who want to learn about and contribute to a healthy and resilient natural environment in Summerland. Details are available at www.summerland.ca/Earth Week. Also, as part of Earth Day, which is on April 22nd, the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen is looking to promote transit in the region. So the District of Summerland will, in conjunction with the RDOS, be promoting Earth Day by waiving fare collection on public transit routes that day. Marketing is expected to commence next week and will be supported through media advisories and information releases. A few points on the recreation side of our service offerings. Summerland Arena ice is out after the Easter weekend, and we have transitioned to our annual spring dry floor season. Additional restrictions were issued from the province, which has put our indoor fitness classes on pause until at least April 19th, with the exception of aqua fitness. And stricter protocols are also in place in our fitness room. Regarding personal fitness, fitness room equipment is now being spaced further apart from 2 meters to 2.5 meters, and our capacity level has been reduced from 12 people to 8 people per booking slot. Pool operations continue with lane swimming, public swims, aquafit, and Red Cross lessons. We appreciate the patience of our customers as we aim to adapt to the health guidance set forth by the province to keep our facilities and activities compliant with the latest COVID protocols. The senior management team here in the district has been working on a code of ethics for all district staff. The document speaks to the values of how we do our work and effectively codifies what I see to be good practices performed by staff every day who are in the public service of the district. In the coming weeks, we will engage the broader staff contingent on finalizing the document, and at that time, I'll also bring it back to council for information. Finally, I wanted to provide a short update with where we are at on our exploration of the eco-village concept in the vicinity of the solar and battery storage project. I have formed an oversight committee to guide the work with key department heads participating. We have had several meetings to plan the methodology, which has included an initial review of the area, some ground truthing of site locations, and setting out the rough parameters of our analysis. Associated engineering has also been brought on board to help with some of the engineering pieces, such as the overall development potential and grade and access considerations, sewer and water service options, and siting options in relation to the solar and battery storage project itself. An RFP was posted to procure a qualified environmental firm to support the environmental considerations. And last week, we evaluated and rated submissions to select the vendor who will be notified shortly. We have begun consideration of the recreational values on site also through the evaluation of existing inventories of trails and other features in the area. And I have also had an initial meeting with the CAO of the Penticton Indian Band to make him aware of the work. Further engagement of the band will occur through the planning phases to ensure we are aware of any cultural values. We should be in a position to report back to council in June on the feasibility of an environmentally sensitive eco-village style development that would enhance and complement the district's solar and battery storage project. With that, I conclude my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Graham. Council, any questions of the CAO and the report? Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering if the CAO could tell me if the staff have had any discussions with the neighboring landowners adjacent and contiguous with the district-owned land that would be all part of a overall development plan for the area.
So through the mayor, and thank you, Councillor Barkwell, for the question. We're still in the preliminary phases, but as we continue down this road, I know it's in our mind to start that engagement. And I don't know, Brad, if you are Director of Development Services, if you'd like to speak to when you think those conversations might happen in more detail.
Sure, thanks, CEO Stat. I think that we do recognize that there will be some impacts to adjacent landowners and that they should be included as part of this planning process. But we want to also do some preliminary understanding of our land as well before and present that back to council to ensure that we're on the right path as part of that planning process. So we do expect that would be a later discussion. However, you know, a couple of the landowners are also under active development applications right now. So that's something that has already been discussed in regards to those development applications, is council's consideration of this proposal.
Go ahead, Councillor Barkwell. Thank you.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, in terms of, say, the environmental assessment of the land, you know, the nature of the land and everything doesn't stop at a property line, which is really kind of invisible up there. It would seem like a good idea to coordinate an environmental assessment of the district-owned land and the surrounding land. You know, I mean, how does an environmental assessor go up there and do a proper one and stop right on the boundary there? If we're going to be looking at an overall development, I mean, it doesn't make sense to me to do an environmental assessment up to the boundary of the district-owned land and then ignore an equal amount of developable land right beside it. Can you see any sort of coordination, you know, at this early stage?
If I can answer that through the mayor to Councillor Barkwell, I think actually a lot of the development, potential developable areas are actually ahead of us. So they've already done their own environmental reports, and definitely we can draw on their information that they've already gathered and provide that to our qualified environmental professional for their benefit to determine the environmental values that they determined, which would give further information to our consultant in considering the area. So So most of that work has been done, I think, for other areas.
Any other question on the CAO's report? Okay. Now is the first of two public comment opportunities. I don't have anyone scheduled here. Is there anybody that has registered since our afternoon meeting, Karen?
There is no one registered, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and no one on the line, I guess.
No one on the line, no.
Okay, so moving right on to our development reports. The first of three is the development variance permit for 18555 Matsu Drive. That's DVP 21-005. And Ariane will take this from here.
All right. Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So the district received an application for a development variance permit requesting a reduction to the minimum rear yard setback for a farm building located at 18555 Matsu Drive. The subject property's official community plan future land use designation is agricultural, and the property is zoned A1, or the agriculture small acreage zone. And as you can see, the land use within the surrounding area is predominantly agricultural, or at least rural, with the property located across the street from the subject parcel that's rural residential or country residential. The property also falls partially within an environmentally sensitive development permit area along the northeastern portion of the parcel, and it also falls within the agricultural land reserve. So at this time, the applicant is proposing to construct a building to store farm vehicles and vineyard-related equipment. Part of this application includes a request for a variance to reduce the minimum rear yard setback from 7 meters to 1 meter to be able to site the building at a particular location located on the property. So the image on the left shows where the building is in relation to the property line, and then also to existing buildings that are on the property, including a winery and the main house as well. It should also be noted that the existing vehicle storage and equipment is being kept in this open enclosure located on the property. So to be able to have a secure building, to be able to store their equipment is important for the owner. All right, so just to provide a bit of context, the proposed location of the building is in the southeast corner of the property, and it's going to, or the proposed location is already disturbed level and also located on a non-productive agricultural area. So constructing the building in this area preserves the arable farmland from development, but also limits encroachment into environmentally sensitive areas. The applicant has also noted that the building would be constructed partially into the steep embankment that you can see here. Again, this just provides more context to the slope, and then also you can see Whitfield Drive located on the left as well. And again, this is just a view from the top of that embankment looking down to the proposed site. So objectives in the OCP include maintaining the integrity of the ALR and strengthening the economic base of the agricultural community. Policies in the OCP and from the Agricultural Land Commission support the construction of buildings to confined areas in order to avoid sprawl on productive farmland. Requiring the building to be sited within the setbacks may require the removal of a significant portion of an already established vineyard. Additionally, although farm uses within the ALR are exempt from obtaining environmentally sensitive development permits, landowners and developers are strongly encouraged to retain ecologically sensitive areas whenever possible. And again, as you can see here, just a bit closer up, the remaining non-productive land on this property is largely classified as environmentally sensitive. And these areas are also where you have slopes greater than 30%. So building a another building in this area, wouldn't just happen on sensitive land, but would also take a fair bit of construction and could potentially further disrupt the environmentally sensitive land as well. Okay, so this application was circulated to internal departments and external agencies for comments. The building department at the district noted that the property is located outside the 10-minute fire response area, which may influence the design and construction of the proposed building. And the district's building officials also noted that a new address will be required from Whitfield Road for emergency response purposes. And the Works and Infrastructure Department noted that the driveway access from Whitfield Road must be constructed to meet the driveway access bylaw, and all of these different things would occur at the building permit stage. The ALC and the Ministry of Agriculture both refer to the Minister's Guide for Bylaw Development in Farming Areas, which is a tool to be able to help local governments develop regulations and including setbacks in agricultural areas. In agricultural areas, the recommended rear yard setback is 4.5 meters, but both the ALC and ministry staff didn't object to this particular proposal because the rear yard abuts Whitfield Road, and neither the staff at those agencies thought that this application would dramatically affect the agricultural opportunities on adjacent parcels or create the potential for conflict. With this in mind, staff recommend that the requested variance be approved as the proposed development aligns with district policies that seek to preserve farmland and retain environmentally sensitive areas, and the proposal will not negatively affect agricultural production on surrounding properties. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ariane. There is the opportunity for the public to comment on this development variance, beginning with the applicant. And I believe that is why we have Mr. Rick Thrussell with us tonight. Would you care to address the development variance permit for which you're applying, Mr. Thrussell? I'll just check in with you one more time. Rick Thrussell, are you interested? Oh, there, I see your mic coming off.
I forgot to unmute myself.
Okay, good. Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't really have anything to say. I just wanted to watch the goings on of council and just see what people had to say about that. But I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't really have anything to add.
Okay, thank you very much for being here. And there is nobody interested or registered to provide public comment. So I will go to council. Do you have questions of Ariane or the development services staff? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, thank you. In some correspondence we received, it suggests that there was a variance application for a large outbuilding back in 2005 or so, and which was never built. I'm just wondering if staff were able to verify that, if that's still on the books, and what's the status of that building, and does it still apply? Would it still apply after all this time?
Yes, through the chair. I am not aware of any plans for that building to be constructed. Perhaps that would be an opportunity for Mr. Thrussell to address that particular building.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Hello. Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah. That was, well, I basically applied for the same variance in 2005 that was granted, but very shortly after I was granted the variance, I ended up getting a divorce, and I basically lost half my net worth, and I could no longer proceed with the construction of that building. So it's been 16 years, but we're ready to attempt to do it again now. But it's a completely different building. It's not the same building that was proposed back in 2005.
Thank you for that. Councillor Holmes, you have another question?
Yeah, just to follow up then with staff. So what would happen with that previous variance that was application that was granted? Would that expire, or would this one supersede that one, or how does that work?
Maybe I'll answer that one. For development variance permits, they usually do stay with the title. If it's we register a covenant, but there is a timeline for them to take effect in terms of for a building permit to be submitted within the 2-year time period. However, in this case, if we are approving a new development variance permit with an associated setback considered by council, that would take precedence moving forward with the land. If that makes sense, and with any future building permits that come forward.
Any other questions? Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To staff, if I may, with the building only being 1 meter off the property line, what is or do you know if there is any future road widenings there? And if there is road widenings, how is that going to affect this building?
Yeah, through the chair. So this application, like I mentioned in my presentation, was referred to internal departments, including the Works and Infrastructure Department. Typically, this is a time where they would be commenting on any future road widening, and they didn't have any comments to note of that specific to that particular area, just because it is like quite a bit less busy than other areas, and I wouldn't think would be a priority within the district for any road or future road widening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, would someone like to bring forward the recommendation there, or something else? Councillor Carlson.
I will move the recommendation. Do you want me to read it out loud?
Yes, please.
All right. I know that there's about 4 houses past there before the dead end, so I doubt they'll need a wider road anytime soon. The council authorizes issuance of development variance permit DVP 21-005 for property located at 18550 Matsu Drive. And I'm not going to read all of that because that's too much. And that a variance to the following section of zoning bylaw 2000-450 be granted. A rear yard setback, section 8.1.6, to vary the minimum rear yard setback from 7 meters permitted to 1 meter.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Seconder, Councillor Traynor. And any further discussion on this? My hopes, Rick, is that the boat that we saw in one of the pictures is not considered agricultural equipment. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I don't see any hands raised. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? Great, so that carries. Thank you. I'm glad to see that you are putting that in an area, as you were planning to before, in an area that really is not arable land. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so 9.2 is another development variance permit, 11719, 11715, and 11711 Grant Avenue, DVP 21-007. And Alex, looks like he's all ready to go on this one.
Yeah.
Thanks,
give me
Alex.
a second, I'll just share my screen with you guys. Okay. The District of Summerland has received an application for variances on 3 properties within the Grant Avenue subdivision. The Grant Avenue subdivision was a 2-phase subdivision that commenced in 2012. Phase 2 was originally approved and registered on April 24th, 2018. A watercourse development permit with a provincially reviewed riparian assessment report was also required and issued in order to facilitate this subdivision. At the time, the preliminary layout review of the subdivision included a stipulation that a no-build restrictive covenant delineating the riparian area was required to be registered in accordance with Section 219 of the Land Titles Act. It should be noted that since this time, staff have moved away from including this no-build covenant registration as a requirement of subdivision approval, and alternatively, we rely on the issuance of the development permit to restrict development within the riparian area. When the no-build, when the no-build covenant was registered, the setback was incorrectly delineated by the surveyor. The watercourse development permit associated raw report indicated that the required setback was to be 10 meters from the high water mark of Prairie Valley Creek. The survey that was prepared and registered with the covenant at the Land Title Office shows the 10-meter setback from the rear property line. However, the high water mark of Prairie Valley Creek is not the same as the rear property line. In the raw report, the high water mark is shown to be several meters within the subject properties. This incorrect delineation of the setback led to a discrepancy of 3.5 meters between the registered covenant setback and the correct setback as determined in the watercourse development permit. Over the past several years, 2 homes have been developed on lots affected by this raw covenant. Homes to this point have been built in accordance with the incorrectly registered covenant on title, which delineated the 10-meter setback from rear property line. Upon submission of building permits for the final 3 lots of the subdivision on January 8, 2021, it was determined by staff that the above noted mistake had occurred with respect to registration, and that the appropriate setback for development was the one included in the issued watercourse development permit and not the covenant. The applicant and staff discussed the best course of action given the situation. It was determined that adhering to the provincially reviewed raw report and issued watercourse development permit would be the best approach due to the relatively new district requirement to receive provincial minister approval for all new watercourse development permits. As all 3 proposed homes encroached into the required setback from the high water mark, they needed to be redesigned to meet the correct raw setback. Given that 2 of the 3 proposed homes had been designed and pre-sold on the basis of the no-build covenant setback, the applicant was worried about losing floor area in his home design. In order to compensate for the decreased buildable area to accommodate for the appropriate raw setback, staff and the applicant determined that applying for a setback variances to the district zoning bylaw would be the best compromise given the situation. The applicant is requesting variance to the zoning bylaw setback bylaw requirements in order to facilitate construction of 3 homes on the final 3 lots in the Grant Avenue subdivision. The applicant is requesting variance to section 10.1.6A1 and 10.1.6A7 in order to reduce the minimum required front setback and garage door setback from 6 meters to 4 meters. Additionally, the applicant is requesting a variance to section 10.1.6A3 to reduce the minimum required interior side setback from 1.5 meters to 1.2 meters. While reducing minimum setbacks on residential properties is generally not encouraged because it can disrupt from the form and character of a neighborhood, The variances being proposed for this development are made in an effort to remedy the covenant registration mistake and to provide further protection to the riparian area of Prairie Valley Creek through the expansion of the riparian setback. The setback reductions proposed would not have a major impact on the surrounding neighborhood and would actually allow the developer to continue with this only single-story homes. The applicant has been forthright about his willingness to develop two-story homes to compensate for the lost buildable area if variances are not approved. All homes in the subdivision are currently single-story, and a letter has been received by staff that communicates the neighbor's desire to see single-story home development continue in this neighborhood. Section 10.6.1A7 of the zoning bylaw requires that all garage doors have a minimum setback of 6 meters from any public or private right-of-way, roadway, or easement. The intent of the garage door setback regulation is to create driveways with adequate length to allow for vehicle parking in front of the garage without protruding into the street or sidewalks. The zoning bylaw requires two vehicle parking spaces on site for single-family development. The proposed homes all include a double-car garage that provide both required stalls. In addition, the reduced garage door setback requirement will not impact the ability of cars to park in the driveway. The 4 meter between the garage and the property line, coupled with the 3.5 meters of space between the property line and the edge of asphalt on the roadway, mean that the driveways will have an adequate length of 7.5 meters for vehicles, even with the reduced setback. Reducing setback requirements does have the potential to disrupt from form and character of a neighborhood. However, in this case, staff feel that the proposed setback variances are the best way to maintain form and character of the surrounding area while maintaining the extended raw riparian setback provided in the issued watercourse development permit. As such, staff are supportive of the proposed variances. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Again, there's the opportunity for public comment on this variance, beginning with the applicant. I don't see any unknown people here. And you haven't received anything in the meantime, Karen? I'm just checking. No, okay, thank you. So council, do you have questions of Alex? Councillor Trainer.
I just have a question for clarification. The variance to alter the setback is the front is 6 meters to 4. Is that correct?
Yes, through the chair, it is from 6 meters to 4 meters.
Okay, because in his letter that the developer sent to the neighbors, he says 4 meters to 2 meters. So I guess that was just an error that he made. Okay, I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
And you'll hold him to that, I presume. Okay, good. Any other questions? Seeing none, I'll ask someone to bring forward a motion, please. Okay, Councillor Carlson, I'm going to give you a break and go to Councillor Holmes. He saved you this time, but thank you.
The council authorized issuance of development variance permit DVP 21-007 for properties located at 11719, 11715, and 11711 Grant Avenue, and then a variance to the following sections of zoning bylaw 2000-450 be granted. Front yard setback, section 10.1.6 A1 to vary the minimum front yard setback from 6 meters permitted to 4 meters proposed. Side interior yard setback, section 10.16A1111 to vary the minimum interior side yard setback from 1.5 meters permitted to 1.2 meters proposed. And garage door setback section 10.1.6A V11 to vary the minimum setback to a garage door facing a street from 6 meters permitted to 4 meters proposed.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Seconder? Councillor Barkpool? Any discussion on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you, Alex. And 9.3 is also yours, a zoning bylaw amendment for 1514 and 1704 Wharf Street, Z21-004.
Perfect. Okay, let me go ahead and share again. Okay. So on January 9th, 2021, staff received an application to rezone the property located at 1514 Wharf Street. After initial processing and consideration at the February 22nd Advisory Planning Commission meeting, comments were received from the commission recommending that rather than spot zoning, that the zoning should be changed for adjacent parcels that are also zoned residential lot 3 to be constituted with RSD1. As a result, staff reached out to 2 adjacent property owners located at 1704 and 1506 Wharf Street to investigate their interest in joining the application. After consideration, the owner at 1704 Wharf Street agreed to join the rezoning application. However, the owner at 1506 Wharf Street decided to withhold from being included in the process. The properties located at 1514 and 1704 are being proposed for rezoning from residential estate lot RSD3 to residential medium lot RSD1 to allow for future subdivision potential. Alrighty. The properties are both currently zoned RSD3. They could be subdivided with the current designation, but would need to be accompanied with a development variance permit to allow for a decreased lot width. The minimum lot width of 20 meters is required for subdivision of RSD3 zones. 1514 and 1704 have total widths of 38 meters and 34 meters respectively, which makes meeting this requirement for a 2-lot subdivision impossible for either. The new zoning designation, RSD1, only has the required width of 12 meters, making future subdivision easier to facilitate. Both properties are designated as low-density residential in the district's official community plan. Directing growth to these residential areas with existing services is efficient and cost-effective for the municipality, while allowing development patterns and density that supports transit, cycling, and walking as viable alternatives to the private automobile. The District of Summerland seeks to increase densities in these areas designated as low-density residential from about 4 units per hectare up to 22 units per hectare. The proposal to rezone the properties to RSD1 to facilitate future subdivision is supported by the official community plan and conforms to the density envisioned. The introduction of sewer to the Trout Creek neighborhood has resulted in a transition away from larger lot residential zoning in favor of smaller lots. Recent subdivisions in the surrounding area, such as Lighthouse Landing, Treffery Place, and Nixon Road, have all been designated as RSD1. The impact of rezoning 1514 and 1704 Wharf Street on neighboring properties is anticipated to be minimal, as the area is dominated by single detached home development. Changing the designation from RSD3 to RSD1 opens up the possibility for subdivision and infill development in close proximity to services, amenities, and existing infrastructure. Staff are recommending that the zoning bylaw amendment be read a first and second time, and that a public hearing be scheduled for May 10th, 2021. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Alex. Council, questions of Alex or Mr. Delavitt? All right. So could somebody bring forward the recommended or something other than that? Councillor Van Elfen, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That zoning bylaw amendment 1514 and 1704 Worth Street bylaw number 2021-010 be read a first and second time, and that a public hearing be held on May 10th, 2021 to receive public feedback on zoning bylaw amendment 1514 and 1704 Worth Street bylaw number 2021-010.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. A seconder? Thank you, Councillor Trainer. Any further discussion on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Great, that carries unanimously. Now on to item 10, bylaws for adoption. And this is the one that has to do with the official community plan and rezoning, or sorry, zoning bylaw amendments to do with 8709 Jubilee Road East. That's the multifamily affordable housing project that we were talking about at our last public hearing. Are there any questions? Oh, sorry. Karen, do you have a question?
Madam Mayor, I was just going to introduce the adoption.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had Arian's name.
That's okay.
9.4. Oh yeah, I don't even have I don't even have 10 on here. Sorry. Thank you, Karen.
No problem. I just wanted to advise that the public hearing and the third reading was received on February 22nd, 2021, and the rezoning bylaw was then forwarded to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure for approval. The approval was granted on March the 23rd, 2021, and therefore it is within Council's authority to consider adoption at this time.
May I just ask you a question? I thought you said February the 22nd. It's March the 22nd, right?
March the 22nd.
Okay, so my hearing is wrong. I thought you said February, but that's fine.
I did say February, but it was March. You're right.
Okay, that's fine. Good.
Madam Mayor.
Thought I'd lost another whole month. Okay, so this is just before us for adoption tonight. Anyone? Thank you, Councillor Holmes. And seconded by Councillor Carlson. Any discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. We have nothing under item 11 or 12. So on to 13 information items. There are quite a number of pieces of correspondence. Would anybody like to bring anything forward? Councillor Holmes.
Yeah, just number G, the toolkit for the Coalition of Inclusive Municipalities. There was no actual correspondence with this. It was just the document. I'm just wondering where it came from and if there was any correspondence with it.
Did you want to speak to that, Karen?
Thank you, Council. That correspondence was received through, I believe, it was sent to all the municipalities about the opportunity to participate, and it was believed that to put it on under council correspondence was a good idea. Mayor Boot was aware of this particular coalition, and so we did add that to correspondence for council's awareness.
Do you have another question about that, Councillor Holmes?
No, I just wonder, it's just kind of weird where it's just the report without it being in context. So I was just wondering where it came from.
Yeah, I think maybe we had received it some time ago as well. And I just wanted to speak to this as well. Although it's not something that I think, staff has the capacity to work on right now, but I would like to perhaps have a discussion when we have our next strategic planning session. I know that that's some time off, but just the discussion around whether or not we want to participate in this is quite a detailed process. So the decision may be no, but just for your awareness, I guess. Are there any other pieces of correspondence that anyone would like to bring forward? Okay, could somebody make a motion to receive the items of correspondence for information, please? Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Patton, all in favor? Great. And on to councillor reports. Let's start with Councillor Trainer today.
So for my councillor report tonight, I just briefly wanted to discuss the opening up of the road up Giants Head Mountain. I gave council a heads up about my concerns last week after I learned through the district's April newsletter that the road would be opening up again on April 15th, which is this coming Thursday. The road has been closed for over a year. The district opted to keep it closed through the spring and summer of last year to prevent crowding at the top of the mountain due to COVID. Given that we are still dealing with the pandemic and we are currently experiencing a third wave, I'm wondering if the road should be kept closed for longer. Nothing has changed since last summer, and if anything, COVID has gotten worse right now. I also think opening the road may catch some park users off guard. Secondly, because of COVID and the growing popularity of the park, I've observed that it's been much busier, especially because people are eager to get outside and because they can't get to their regular fitness classes and their gyms. There are more cyclists, dogs, and people using the road as well as the trail. Given that the road is very narrow, I'm concerned that there could be a potential for an accident, especially when larger vehicles and motorhomes try to pass. However, I'm also very aware and sensitive to the fact that the road provides accessibility for those who cannot walk to the top. So I think that we may want to consider whether we want to open it now or keep it closed. And when we do reopen it, I think we may wish to discuss limiting when vehicles can travel on the road through some kind of management use plan. That way cyclists, hikers, dog walkers, and families with strollers know when they can safely use the road without competing with traffic. So I just wanted to bring that up and see how the rest of council feels and get some feedback on that. That's my report.
Thank you, Councillor Trainer. So let's talk about this now then. Councillor Holmes, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I believe in Victoria, Mount Douglas, they open the gates to traffic at 12 noon, and it's closed to cars until in the mornings for anybody to, for walkers or whatever, and then they open the gates at noon. So, and I think that seems to make a lot of sense, and everybody understands that's what's happening, and so that way the mountain is accessible to those who don't want cars there in the mornings, and it's accessible to people who aren't able to climb all the way to the top, in the afternoons. So.
Good, thank you for that, Councillor Holmes. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I don't remember any discussion about crowding at the top of the mountain. I thought it was because we'd had so many staff cutbacks that there was nobody to open and close the gate daily, and it was one of the cuts related to staffing. Certainly, if there's more people on the road now, it's because you can't drive up there, and so you have to walk, and so there's going to be more people on the road. I don't know what that has to do with anything. I would really support Councillor Holmes' suggestion that noon would be an appropriate time to open the road, but we do want to maintain accessibility for people, even if they can't walk that last few hundred yards to the top, they can get some great views by being able to drive up there that they wouldn't otherwise enjoy. So, and now we have this trail system, so walkers, can use the trails. So can we look at something like that, Councillor Holmes' suggestion?
Thank you for those comments, Councillor Barkwell. Does anyone else want to weigh in on this? Councillor Carlson and then Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I find myself in complete agreement with Councillor Trainer. I also think that when this road was built, cars and trucks, especially full-size pickups and SUVs, weren't nearly as large. And so if we are going to open this road again after it's been closed for such a long time, I believe that we require some proper signage, some signs about the width, about sharing the road. Perhaps we need some big mirrors so that people can see what's coming and going, because it is an accident waiting to happen. There will be people on longboards, there will be people pushing strollers, riding road bikes, riding mountain bikes. And as long as everyone knows when that road is open to vehicle traffic and that the people who are driving vehicles up, because you're right, it is nice to be able to drive up, especially if you only have a short amount of time and you want to show somebody who's visiting you, or you want to take somebody who may not be able to walk all the way up, you want to take them up for the view. It's really important to have that, but it doesn't need to be dusk till dawn, and perhaps it doesn't even have to be every day. I think we do need to have some further conversation about what would work best and what would keep everybody safe. But I do believe that there are more people out there now than there would be otherwise, and it has nothing to do with the fact they have to walk from the bottom. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that they can't go to a spin class, or they can't go to a fitness class that they normally would go to. That would be my 2 cents.
Thank you. Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'm definitely concerned. I mean, I do like Councillor Holmes' proposal. I think it's something that could be investigated. My other concern is that even if we do open it to traffic, that we monitor this very, very closely, because it was announced last week, I believe we've had the driest March in the history of British Columbia, precipitation wise. So we're going to be getting into fire season soon. And I think that's one of the reasons it was closed last time, is because of the extreme fire hazard. And I think we need to definitely monitor that and close it, at appropriate times, so we don't run into a fire hazard situation up there. That's just my 2 cents. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Councillor Patton.
I agree with Councillor Holmes, and I agree with Councillor Trainer. I haven't been up, to be quite honest. I haven't been up probably for about 6 months, so I don't know how crowded it gets at the top since then. But if we could impose some guidelines in regards to vehicle traffic that will complement pedestrian traffic up there, I'm all for it. Thanks.
Thank you. I think there's the opportunity here for a compromise. We've talked about the accessibility, and that's super important. Age friendly is for all ages, not just for the younger cohort or the older people in our midst. I would like to see the road opened, definitely with more signage. I too really like what Councillor Holmes has brought forward in terms of a noon opening. It doesn't mean that there is any extra, well, at least I don't think so, any extra staff time in whether you're opening the gate in the morning or opening it at noon. Personally, as the temperatures start to rise, I'm out there earlier and earlier when I go up because it's just too hot by 10 o'clock in the morning. So I think that is an excellent compromise. Just my thoughts. I too have seen a lot more people up there and using the roads as well. A fair number of people on the trails. I wish that people that were traversing the hill would stay on the trails, frankly, if they're not on the road, but that's another conversation. Councillor Trainer, would you like to bring forward sorry, I had one other question, and that is an administrative question. And I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, CAO Stat, but is it, other than the additional signage and perhaps mirrors, administratively, is it going to be more difficult?
Well, thank you for the question, Your Worship. And at first blush, I'd say it's not administratively more difficult to achieve what we would call sort of a different approach to access management here. We would need some additional signage. And generally speaking, it's easier to close things or open things on a daily basis. Like these days are open for vehicles, these days aren't, but I can certainly take it back to staff and see what is in the realm of the possible should council want to do something. The only thing that might get more administratively onerous or expensive is just depending on the level of enforcement council expects that people are following the rules. Because if we get into, certain times things are open for vehicles, perhaps size of vehicles is a consideration as mentioned too. Inevitably people miss the sign or decide they don't want to follow the rules. And so the level and extent of the problem and the amount of enforcement that we decide to do can drive the cost up. But frankly, overall, with responsible behaviors that we're seeing in the community and the recreation options, I don't think this would be terribly onerous or terribly expensive. I would just want the opportunity to be able to consult the public works folks and come up with the best approach that we could perhaps bring back to council quickly on this with some costing if there is any for signage, etc.
Okay, thank you. And Karen, do we need a resolution or not?
For that type of reporting back, no. However, if there's any action that council would like to provide direction on in the short term, certainly that could be a motion. Okay.
Back to you, Graham, and then I'll go to Councillors Trainer and Carlson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to respond to Karen's point, I'll tell you what I think I heard, and then we can see if council needs to supplement the direction to me. Look at access management options that would allow reasonable access for vehicles at appropriate times, including consideration for additional signage, which may also instruct us to the size of vehicles that are permitted on the roadway.
Does that sound about right, Councillor Trainer?
Can I just add a couple things, if that's okay?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, council, for listening to my concerns. I really appreciate it. I think it's a good idea if Graham can bring us back a report so I didn't really want to make an absolute decision tonight because I wanted to just consider the options and like Doug Holmes suggested, opening later, but perhaps we have one car-free day a week or something like that, like just some options for us to consider before we make a decision. And if that can come back sooner than later, that would be great because the park is scheduled to open this week. And then finally, I just wanted to ask, have we had any more feedback from the public at all? I know this went out in the newsletter this week. I don't know if the people who get their bills through the mail have gotten the newsletters yet and read that, but have we gotten any feedback from the public?
Thank you. Maybe I'll take that, Madam Mayor. I recall at least one piece of correspondence, Karen, and I don't know if it made it into the meeting package today, but there was certainly at least one that I recall that expressed concern with allowing vehicles back onto the roadway. Do you recall others, Karen?
I don't recall any others, Madam Mayor. So one or two potentially, but certainly not a lot of correspondence on this topic so far.
Because communication has gone out in the newsletter and it stated the 15th, which is the date that we are opening up all our gates and public washrooms and parks, and we have a contractor hired to do so on that sort of daily basis. What we might want to do is just to give us the runway to put together a quick report, we might want to make a bit of a clarity point to the community as to the gates aren't opening immediately, but in the near future or something to that extent.
Okay. Councillor Carlson.
I don't think I remember what I was going to say. But when we do open those gates, I think it needs to be or even in anticipation of them opening it, signage needs to go up to the users that are hiking it right now, in that parking area that says this road is opening again. And that maybe should have happened prior to the 15th. But I guess if we're able to postpone by a short time in order to make sure it's done safely, I think that would be in everybody's best interest.
Okay, so council will leave this to Graham and his team to have some discussions, perhaps as early as at the senior management team tomorrow or meeting tomorrow, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound okay, Councillor Traynor? Good. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. And that was the end of your council report, correct? Good. Thank you. On to Councillor Carlson.
All right. I have another issue that we can hopefully have a brief conversation about this evening. I'm over Easter weekend, traveling from Falder Way back to Summerland, past what we all call trappers. I noted that folks are out in full force, counted approximately 60 vehicles, many of them fully loaded, pulling trailers, pulling campers, camping for the long weekend, doing their quadding and the dirt biking. And all of those things are allowable, well, except camping overnight, and permissible. But the thing that I believe we really need to be aware of and concerned about is the dozen fires that people were sitting around. It's okay right now, at least it has been okay, but I do think that between the RDOS and the District of Summerland and PIB, we should be very seriously considering how to monitor and make sure that our residents are playing safe out there, but also that the citizens of Summerland and surrounding are going to stay safe, because what we don't need is for someone to leave a fire unattended or to have a fire maybe in a place where they shouldn't, especially as we heard earlier this evening, it's been such a dry spring so far. The other concern, I think, is that with the number of dirt bikes, making sure that the people are using spark arresters. I don't know if there's a spot in the if there's a place for the district to be that police officer, but I do think we have some obligation to, again, make sure that people are playing safely. And finally, I also think that if there's no camping allowed out there, we should find a way to enforce that. And when people set up at 7 p.m. on a Friday night, and they're still there at 10 p.m. on a Saturday morning, someone has to tell them that that's not the place that they can be camping. So that's just something to think about. And if we want it to be a campground, then let's make a campground and charge people for it. That's not on the record though, right? We don't want to.
Thank you, Councillor Carlson. Any other comments on this? I know that I've received some correspondence from concerned folks in Summerland, concern primarily for the environmental aspects of that and the degradation that potentially at least could happen up there. Certainly if there's a wildfire, then that's not, it's certainly not something that we want. Anybody else? Councillor Holmes.
I was just wondering who's responsible for enforcing when there is unauthorized camping. Who's responsible for enforcing that? I get if it's either within municipal boundaries, outside municipal boundaries, and is it our bylaw? Is it the RCMP? Is it the provincial government, or would anybody know?
Yes, Graham can answer that.
Yeah, thank you. And through the mayor. So on district lands, certainly our bylaw enforcement officers can enforce where we believe there is the presence of alcohol use, that we'll usually collaborate with the RCMP to respond to those incidents, as they can have a tendency to escalate. But the best way to make a difference, if that's the desire of council, on a complex land base like this, where there's district lands, private lands, crown lands, and indeed some RDOS lands, is to do what we call interagency enforcement. And that's where we plan what might be a 1 or a 2 day blitz in the key areas we know there's a problem. And then we try and build that with the RCMP, our bylaw folks, possibly RDOS presence, and conservation officers from the province. And we do a coordinated effort that would focus on education and also enforcement. And then you have the right agencies there to enforce on the various land bases if an enforcement action is required. But you can get a long way just with education. And of course, the first step there is good and proper signage. Because I understand there has been some signage placed in the past, the small signs, sort of like laminated 11 by 8-inch signs. And between weather and individuals that don't like the rules, the signs have had a tendency to disappear. So, more signage and collaborative education and enforcement is, on a complex land base like this, is the way to move the needle.
And of course, we're still in COVID, in the third wave now. So that's another consideration if there's that many people congregating at the same time. Councillor Carlson.
Thank you. You're right. We are still in COVID, and I know that one of the fires Easter weekend had at least 30 people around it. So there are, there's that as well, but that's not the concern that I'd like to raise. But I do think that education is key. I know that there's ATV clubs, there's dirt bike clubs, there's lots of people in this community who are extremely involved in riding and participating in that. And so perhaps there's some component to utilizing those networks as well to make sure that the proper message gets out, and we're not trying to shut anything down, but we do want to make sure that it's not going to destroy the environment or cause a fire.
Graham, and then I'll go to Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, and just on that note of, things like overnight camping and the rules and the education side, it's my understanding on the Crown land base, there is allowance for some overnight camping and random use. So sometimes what can happen is people can misunderstand what area they're actually camping in, thinking they're following the rules because they're on what they thought is Crown land, but in fact, it might be district or private land. I did have the opportunity recently to engage our fire chief just because we had heard about some concerns on random use and our response to fire. And I was told from the fire department that there's been 35 incidents in the last 5 years where the fire department had to respond, and 145 incidents in this area on related properties since 2001. And particularly this time of year is bad, according to the fire department, because this will open up quicker from an access perspective than other areas that people like to go. Snow's gone, as Councillor Van Alphen mentioned earlier, very dry conditions, which is great for things like riding motorized vehicles. And then people might disperse as other areas open up later in the year. But in the meantime, it is quite a high volume out there.
Okay, so you'll continue working on this then, CEO Stat? Okay. Thank you, Councillor Carlson, for bringing that up. It's much appreciated. And do you have anything further for your councillor report?
I do not. Play safe,
Okay.
everyone.
Yes, great. Thank you again. Okay, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to say thank you to our CAO for the update on the Eco Village status and where we're at on that. I really, truly appreciate that. I just want to send kudos out to the Parks and Rec staff at the Aquatic Center. I'm very fortunate to be able to use the facility, and they've done a fabulous job in the gym of sectioning off areas, and so people can be self-distanced when they're working out in the gym. And they've really done a great job, and my hat's off to them in a very difficult situation. And I noticed today out Garnet Valley Way, they're turning on our irrigation as we speak. So happy farming, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Van Elfen. Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm one of few that doesn't have anything to report this week.
Okay, thank you. The Kettle Valley Railway AGM is coming up soon, right?
It is next week.
Next week. Okay, thank you. Councillor Barkle.
Nothing to add, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Holmes, last but certainly not least.
Yeah, I'd just like to report from that last Tuesday's Okanagan Basin Water Board meeting. The board reviewed the water conservation and quality improvement grants, and 16 grants were issued, including $22,000 for our $30,000 application for the source water assessment update. And so I'm sure we'll be hearing more from our Works and Utilities Director about that in due course.
Great.
But that's good news.
That's excellent news. I'm hoping too that once it opens through the Real Estate Foundation of BC, that we can look at applying for some of their healthy watersheds funding too, that the provincial government announced, and that's quite considerable. Okay, I guess that's everything for council reports tonight then. It's kind of nice to have a longer discussion during councillor reports. And I will take a chance and make an assumption that there is not anyone on the line to comment, whether it be public or media. Thank you. And I'll call for adjournment then, or ask for adjournment. Councillor Van Elfen and Carlson, all in favor? Great. Thank you. Good night, everyone, and enjoy your week. The sun is on its way.